Have you ever felt stuck? Have you ever felt like you've hit a revenue ceiling or that, your best-selling product that's been growing and growing and growing has started to plateau and you don't really know what to do? I've been there. I've also worked my way through it and I've also gotten out of it and uncovered new levels of growth. And today I'm going to teach you exactly how I did it. Most marketing teams knee jerk reaction when they get to some kind of like revenue ceiling that they can't break through or when they're facing a plateau. The knee jerk reaction seems to be to launch a new advertising channel. They start to think, oh, like maybe we've tapped out Meta. Maybe we should get on AppLovin or YouTube or TikTok or Snap or Reddit, whatever else. And you should do that eventually, but I don't think that should be the first few things you do. Because learning a new channel comes with all sorts of complexities in measurement, in attribution, in just the steep learning curve of figuring out how this new thing that you've never used before for your business is going to help you grow here. So before you launch that new channel, I need you to do a couple things for me, because the few things I'm going to outline today has allowed me and the brands I've worked for to grow far beyond where we thought we could on our existing advertising channels after we felt a few months of plateau or a few months of ceiling that we couldn't break through. Implementing these things doubled our growth rate without having to learn a new channel. So here's what I want you to do first. I want you to think about relaunching your top performing products. I literally want you to like start over, write a like new product launch brief. Whatever your normal launch process is, I'd like you to get into that. If testing prices and offers isn't a part of your launch plan, it should be, and it should be a part of this plan too. I talk a lot about finding price market fit. And one thing that I don't emphasize enough is that price market fit isn't just one price forever. Price market fit for a gallon of gas 2 weeks ago is different than it is today because of what's going on in the world. And while our prices don't swing that drastically in ecom, if you haven't tested your prices in 6 months, they're out of date. You don't know the optimal price that consumers are willing to pay for your product today in order to maximize your profit per site visitor. And that's what you got to figure out. So first step of this like relaunch process, test prices or test offers again on those hero SKUs and see if you find any gains. We're going to do a similar thing with content. I want you to shoot new visual content. This is best if you actually get someone else to shoot it. Get someone different from your usual content creator. New formats. Some people respond better to UGC content than others. If you've been leaning into that super heavily, try doing more highly produced, polished content. There are some consumers that convert on AI generated content just fine. There's also a cohort of customers that won't convert on AI generated content. So mix up your creative resources and your creative process to try to capture different formats and styles and aesthetics that you haven't before. If your product has plateaued or if growth has stalled, you're likely exhausting the current audience you are advertising to with repetitive content, creative offers, messaging. So this entire episode is about how do we mix it up? How do we get new people interested in what we're doing? This is going to flow into your copy as well. I want you to go write new reasons why people should buy this product. And I want you to do it in two ways. One, to unlock a new cohort of customers, I would start with customer reviews that are like outside the norm of what you usually get. So if most of your reviews are about how awesome your products look or the compliments that someone gets when they wear or use your product, and then a minority of reviews talks about how the person feels when they used your product, that means you're probably doing a great job at marketing how it looks, but you're not doing a good job marketing how it makes them feel. Show me your reviews and I can show you what your marketing team is good at and what they're missing, because acquisition is like a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you run messaging about how your product looks with high production quality content, you're going to acquire customers that trust and associate high production content with product quality. But there's a segment of your audience that doesn't equate those two things. There's a segment of the audience that wants to see people who look and talk like they do in UGC videos. That's how they establish trust with a brand. They might want to know how people who have used your product before feel about it. So if you're only doing the first thing, you're going to miss this entire section of the market. And this goes right into my favorite growth lever these days, performance copywriting. If your messaging is always positioned negatively and you lead into fear of loss or risk aversion messaging, you're going to acquire a bunch of customers who are pessimistic and skeptical, but who desperately want relief from whatever the thing is your product solves. But you're ignoring this segment of the market that views this category in your industry positively. Fear of loss messaging isn't going to work on them. I did an episode a couple of weeks ago called How to Market, excuse me, How to Market to Happy and Sad Customers, where I dig into this concept deeper. But what I'm trying to get at with this whole thing is, before you go and launch a new channel, before you take on that massive project, that steep learning curve, that mirage of attribution and measurement that you're about to go try to figure out, try to shake up your marketing mix. Maybe you've gotten really good at advertising to one particular segment of the market who feels positively about it, who wants high production quality content, who's focused on how it looks, but you have neglected the part of the audience that might feel negatively or pessimistic about the industry or category. You've neglected people that don't resonate and don't associate high quality content with high product quality and trust. So before you go launch that new channel, I need you to mix up the way you currently market your products, because to grow, you need to be able to acquire a cohort of customers that you haven't attracted yet. So go make marketing that attracts that next group of customers. All of this applies to your product development strategy too. I think your brand should constantly be putting new products out that are capable of reaching a new segment of your market. I think whiskey brands and watch companies do this better than anyone. A normal bottle of old number 7 Jack Daniels costs like $25. It's cheap and it's fine. It gets the job done. But I can't tell you how many specialty limited edition bottles of Jack Daniels that are sitting on my shelf that I paid more than $500 for. Without that, they would have no way for me to give them that amount of money. I can't spend 10 grand a year on old number 7 bottles, but I can definitely spend 10 grand a year on high-end specialty bottles that range from 500 to $1,000. Watch companies are excellent at this. You can get, an entry level Rolex or AP for, 10K or 20K, but you can also buy one for 50 or 80. Right? We did this at Original Grain a lot. The most popular watch we sold cost $200. It was a quartz movement. It flew off the shelves. Then we launched kind of like a, cheaper, not cheaper, it's more expensive, but a cheap automatic watch for $350 that attracted a different group of customers. And then we had the $500 and $600 mechanical watches that crushed to a different segment of the audience. So the last thing I need you to do here is tell your founder or tell your product dev team to get back in the lab, cook up some new SKUs, build something that can attract a new version of your audience that your current products and your current marketing doesn't resonate with. So that is the summary for what do you do when your product plateaus, when growth is stalled, when you think you've hit a revenue ceiling. Before you expand to new channels, please try a couple of these tactics. It's going to be really valuable for you to learn what works and what can actually add more fuel to the fire on your current channel mix before you go and add the new one. Then you can take all these learnings over there and immediately hit the ground running. All right, we are moving on to the next segment. We got a good field tested today. Let's take a look. Field tested, brought to you by Intelligems, is where I show you the results of real split tests that I've ran and talk through what worked, what didn't, why it worked. And this is a super interesting one. This is actually the result of 2 tests that tested the exact same thing, but on different landing pages for different products. What we are testing here is a control long form, basically an advertorial page. It's a ton of long form copy that educates people on the product and doesn't even give them an option to buy or click through until way at the bottom. The bar on the right on both of these graphs is that same page, but with more call to actions higher up on the page and throughout the long form copy. So it gives them the option to buy quicker. On product A over here, it is better to get them to buy quicker. They don't need all of the education that we were giving them. They just need to get to checkout faster. And it absolutely tries to produce a 40% increase in conversion rate. Same exact test on a different product that solved a different pain point, absolutely collapsed. There's an 88% decrease in conversion rate when we interrupted the education with too many call to actions and buy buttons. This is a product that requires much more education than the first one. So it actually hurt conversion rate because we were asking people to buy too quickly. So I want you to think about this with your on-site experience. Think about when you are asking people to buy. Have they been educated enough? Have they been persuaded enough? Have you built up enough trust with them? Have you done enough to show them that you are cool and trustworthy and likable? Have you done all of that work before you ask them to buy or not? I would test something similar on your highest traffic LPs across your product mix, because as we saw here, it can vary drastically depending on what product you are selling. All right, next up, we're going to tweet of the week. It's from Michael Brandt. I don't know Michael, but I think this tweet was an absolute banger. He says, it's tough to hear, but you need to be cooler. If you were cooler, that person would answer your email or invest in your business or buy your product. This is not talked about enough. I love this take so much. It's like such an underrated thing to be cool or to be likable or to be, someone people want to hang out with. Like, that is such a valuable thing, both for individuals and for brands, to be able to create. And this kind of goes into my whole thought with marketing. It's like, it's all a skill issue. So if your brand isn't cool yet, if you aren't cool yet, do some stuff that's cool. Add some lore to your story. I'm not saying I've mastered this by any means, but like the amount of people that hit me up before a conference and say, hey, I want to have an old fashioned with you and talk about bull riding is like off the charts. It's like multiple people every single conference, just because like I have a little bit of a personality that I show online, gets me in conversations and has gotten me on golf trips and in meetings with leaders in our industry that I've no business talking to. And again, I'm not cool. We're all fucking dorks, but yeah, do something cool. It'll help your career. I promise. All right. Weird thing this week. I'm giving a second best tweet of the week award. And bad news, this is going to contradict the thing where I just said I'm kind of cool. I'm giving this award to myself, which is huge douchebag move. But I think it's important. This guy tweeted some Stanford experiment that proves ChatGPT tells you you're right even when you're wrong, even when you're hurting someone. And the most powerful quote here from it was, AI agrees with you 50% more often than a human would. So I tweeted that and I said, huge news for managers who want to be surrounded by yes men. If you want, if you are sick of employees that disagree agree with you, you can replace them all with AI. But I would offer a stern warning against that. I don't think that's going to go too well. I don't think anyone should just be in their own positive feedback loop with a robot and never get questioned or challenged or never really have to argue your points of view. I think that's really unhealthy. So use AI for what it's good at. Be careful with it when it comes to validating and affirming some of your ideas, because I've given it some pretty bad ideas that it says was great. So watch over that. All right, last segment here, Marketers Anonymous. And this question's a good one. This question says, how do you know when you're burned out versus unmotivated versus bored? Good question. Um, for me, burnout is about I get burnt out when I'm working very hard for a long amount of time for no perceived reason. If I'm not like incentivized to do well, if there's no reward for the hard work at the end of the day, that's when I get really, really burnt out. And I'm not just talking about like bonuses and salary increases and stuff like that. That can help, obviously, but even like just as far as like appreciation and validation. I've worked a couple jobs where like no matter how good we did, it never felt like it was good enough, and that burned me out super fucking hard. Because like, oh, if we forecast a bunch of growth and then we beat that forecast, we're also going to have the attitude that we could have done better. Like that burns me out super hardcore. Unmotivated for me is a different thing. I don't deal with that much these days. I'm in the very, blessed position where like I just don't work on things that I don't want to work on. So I would, prioritize that in your life and job and experiences. If you can only work on things you want to work on. I think that's like an underrated thing, because you don't want to work on something, or if you're doing it just for a check, you're probably not going to do your best work, and that's probably not going to be like the career accelerator you want it to be. So yeah, I don't work on things I don't want to work on, and that helps out. And then the last part of this was, how do you know when you're just bored? Work can be boring sometimes. I don't think that's like a disqualifier from doing it, especially if it's like, there is a reward at the end of the day for you. But I would say like you shouldn't look to your work to be entertained. I think you should build your real life to be more exciting and entertaining and fun. And if your workday is a little bit boring, I mean, like, yeah, a lot of this stuff is. I don't think that's a crazy take, but yeah, let me know. Hope that helps. Thanks so much for listening to Tactical and Practical. Send in your questions if you want to be on Marketers Anonymous. And I've got one copywriting slot open in April. If you guys want to get some performance copy written on your highest traffic headline or highest traffic landing pages, I'm pretty sure I can beat whatever you've got going on there. So let me know. Thanks so much for listening. I will talk to you soon.